Oh, thank you, Mo. And thank you for everyone taking time out of your busy, busy schedules to be here and give back and share some insights with the team and the students. And we are just so grateful to have you here today. And I just want to set the stage, a couple of things. First of all, my name is Mark Gmach. I teach really two primary courses. I teach a number of different ones, but Personal Finance 101, which is financial literacy. And I see a lot of familiar faces. I'm really excited to have you here and love working with you. And it's open to all majors, all stages, freshman through senior. And I teach the other end of the spectrum, which is the Advanced Retirement Financial Planning, which is the capstone for the CFP approved curriculum that we have here at Whitewater. And where's Jean Taboyak? Is Jean here? Dr. Jean Taboyak, back in the back, is the person that put that all together for us, got it all certified. And could we just give him a hand? It's rapidly growing, and it's terrific. So thank you, Jean. Thank you very much. The other thing I want to do before we dive into some of the things you want to hear, right, to take the mystery out of what does it mean to be in financial planning or in the investments realm, I want to thank every one of these individuals up here for being our sponsors for FMA. Each one of them, their companies, Savant, Sky Wealth, in addition to that, Annex, Harbour Investments, Johnson's Wealth Management, all of them have contributed money to FMA to fund events like this today, make these types of things possible, and competitions and other things. So on behalf of them and the people that aren't here, could you please give them a hand and say thank you? So, Anne, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to ask this question just to kind of level set with everybody down the road here. And I just would like the students, first of all, to know who you represent, what your responsibility is, okay, and what do you kind of do day to day. And so just to give them that sense. So, Anne, would you start us out?
My name is Anne Mank. I am the new Director of Financial Planning at Savant Wealth Management. We are headquartered in Rockford, but I live in Franklin. So we have Madison, Milwaukee, Illinois, BC. We're really expanding quite rapidly. But what I do on a daily basis is I get the privilege of sitting with my clients and getting to know their entire life. I get to know their kids. I get to know their fears, their dreams, their wishes. And then I can tie their finances into it. So I can say, okay, based on your investments, let's get you to this goal of being able to fully fund your kids' education. Or based on the risk tolerance you're taking, I think you can retire at 62 and you can retire at the income that you want to. So the nice thing about financial planning is that you are kind of like a wealth coach for them. That's how I like to think of myself, is that I understand the numbers behind the scenes. And what I get to do is educate my clients on how they can get there, why it's important. I can help them through any blocks they might have. I can hold them accountable. I can be a therapist sometimes for married individuals. And so I really have a broad base that I can help my clients. But in financial planning, it is really a person-to-person type interaction. So it is about the investments, and it is about, making sure that they can get to their financial goals. But it's so much more, because you will be invited to weddings and funerals. You'll be excited about the birth of a child, all along knowing that you're putting them in the best investments to get them there.
Thanks, Anne. Sean, you want to take it from here?
My name is Sean Wayne. I'm with Sky's Edge Wealth, affiliated with Ameriprise Financial. We're based in Madison, Wisconsin. And so I graduated in 1998 from Whitewater here with a finance degree, and then went on to joined Ameriprise right out of college, and then later on got my CFP. So that's a big part, and there's probably going to be a few different redundant themes along here. So I'm going to take everything Ann said and wrap it into what we do. So within Ameriprise Financial, we're very financial planning focused, and we all realize that's a buzzword out there. We really take it seriously. So we charge for our advice and planning. We have 5 CFPs in our firm. So I'll kind of leave it there for now.
Thanks, Sean. Brandon?
Yeah, my name is Brandon Lehman. I work for Annex Wealth Management. So I have a unique role, is that I wear multiple hats. So I serve as a wealth manager, kind of like Ann and Sean had talked about, where I work with clients. Day to day, I have a background in executive compensation and taxation, which is a mouthful, but basically, I spent my career working in tax managed investments and working with senior level executives on how to manage their compensation because they're really good at their job. They're really bad at money for the most part. And then the other side is I oversee all of our offices. We have 8 offices. The branch directors report to me. I work on long-term strategic planning with our executive team. I do a lot of I wear a lot of hats. I run around a lot. So I'm based out of Elm Grove where we have an office, but as I was telling Sean, I'm only there maybe 2 days a week because I go to all of our other offices to include Naples, Florida, which is a blessing when you're from here in January. So I think probably the difference for most here is I graduated, just to touch on this, I graduated in 2009. So most of you probably don't remember that, but it was obviously the worst time to come out of school in decades. There were no jobs. I have a degree in history and poli-sci, and it was research and writing is what you do in those degrees. I got brought in by a wealth management team to write their financial plans and do their research. That's how I started my career. And I've never looked back, but it was an extremely hard time. I was married, my wife got laid off, and it was March and we didn't know what we were going to do. And this career has changed our lives, and it's been a blessing, but not just our lives, but all the people that I've worked with now for 13 or 14 years as a wealth manager.
Travis, you want to talk? Thank you, Brandon. And, we'll get into that a little bit more with market ups and downs and how do you work with clients during that time frame. So thanks for sharing that. That was a brutal time. Travis, tell us about Harbour and some of the different roles in Harbour and just to give us a sense, because there's a whole host of things there.
Yeah, so unlike the predecessors here, I work for Harbour Investments. I'm the Chief Compliance Officer. We've got approaching 300 reps now, and they're spread out all across the country. So my role within the corporate office, obviously as Chief Compliance Officer, I get to distill all the different regulations that come from our regulators in the industry, mostly the SEC, FINRA, and the states. There's a few others out there. Everybody's really aware here, but I distill that. We try to come up with policies and procedures that meet their goals, but at the same time are not too burdensome upon the rep and their relationship with the client, right? I also manage outside counsel in those situations where if we need outside counsel, I handle most of it myself in-house, but it's always fun to have outside counsel and let the dog loose every now and then. From that standpoint, also being Chief Compliance Officer, I have a team of principals. So we work together on different unique strategies that reps are trying to employ, or if they're trying to bring on a new financial planning software, we're responsible for the due diligence and approving that beforehand.
Thanks, Travis. And Harbour is located in Madison, right? I know you said 300 representatives all over the country, but the headquarters, like where you're located, right on the Beltline, great signage, right? Is that so? Those of you that are familiar with Madison, chances are you've driven past their offices and their locations. So great location. Joe Maier. Joe, would you be kind enough to share who you are, what you do? Go ahead.
So, it's on, right? So I'm Joe Maier. I work at Johnson Financial Group. I'm a lawyer by training. Spent most of my career as an estate planning and succession planning lawyer. And right now I have sort of 3 roles at Johnson Financial. The one that probably gets the most publicity is I work very closely with, again, this just requires a Forbes Google search, the 6th wealthiest family in America. Actually lives in Racine, Wisconsin. I know it's going to blow your mind, but the 6th wealthiest family in America is from Racine, Wisconsin. It's the Johnson family. So I work closely with them, managing what I would say is the complexity of their architecture. That's probably the best way to put it. So that's the first role I have. The second role I have is I run the trust company there. So for everyone who's not a Johnson family member that asks us to sort of be their person, be their, sort of, I would say I always use the term, be their family CFO and manage their family's affairs pursuant to whatever rules and values that family has. That's what we do. And then the third thing, and I've always thought about how to sort of phrase this, and I think the best phraseology, and I loved Anne's description, so I don't want to steal any of her thunder, but I think what my third role is really being responsible for the client experience infrastructure in an organization that is trying to, at the end of the day, align human resources, which, by the way, right, is money, but is also time, ingenuity, creativity, and all of those things with what people really want in life. So if you think about that, if we spend our time, if we spend our money, if we spend our creativity, if we spend our energy doing those things, spending for those things that matter most to us, that is the definition of happiness, right? So our process is really about how we align people to figure out, we help them figure out what they have, we have them help us figure out what they want, and then we align those two things together. And that's right, you do get invited to weddings and funerals and bar mitzvahs and all of those things, all of those celebrations of humanity, because again, those are the things that matter, right? So if you help people execute on those things that matter, you tend to get invited to the party. So again, that's what we do.
Thanks, Joe. I'd like to just drill in a little deeper in terms of how you were attracted to the particular organization that you're in right now. And the second part, so how were you attracted to the organization and what's their unique value proposition? So Anne, if I can go to you on this and we'll follow right down.
Sure. So this question is easy since I just started there about a month ago, but
it's fresh in your mind.
It's fresh. I'm good. But I also have a lot of experiences at different organizations. Like my background, I started off, I have an accounting degree. I'm a CPA. I've done public accounting. I've done consulting, SEC reporting. What else have I done? Corporate controller, wealth advisor. So I really know what I'm looking for in a company when I make a transition. And what I was really looking for was growth. I wanted some place that was growing and I could grow with it. I wanted some place that I could use my creativity, because part of being a growing company is that you're changing. Like you put processes in place and about 6 months later, you break them all and start over again. I also wanted the ability to, through that creativity, make change. So I want to be able to impact as many households as I possibly can. And so that's what I saw at Savant. And what makes Savant different is that I think we're kind of the front of disrupting the industry. We are really putting financial planning first when we're working with our clients. We are putting technology behind it so that we can help those that are a little savvy in finances, but also helping that non-CFO partner in a relationship so that they get comfortable. So we're leveraging a lot of tools and resources and putting that first when it comes to helping with our client, as well as having the investments to back it up on the back end. So I'm very particular to financial planning. I love to strategize. And so that's what Savant is really building as a foundation and has been around and been doing that for, I believe, over 25 years now.
And Anne, you're director of financial planning, correct? So not only are you working with some individual clients, what does that mean for your responsibilities?
With working with clients or with working with the organization?
I know, I'm assuming what you said before was what you're doing with clients.
Yeah.
So what does it mean for the organization?
For the organization, what I get to do is be a thought leader. And so if they want an expert on, so for example, we have the hurricane happening down on the East Coast right now that just went through Florida. And so one of my responsibilities is saying, okay, if I'm in my client's seat, what are they worried about? What are some things that they need to plan for right now? And so in my position, I'm able to disseminate that throughout the entire organization. And so like this morning, I was in contact with our advisor team saying, here are probably the 3 or 4 things that you should be reaching out to your clients right now to either discuss or make sure we stay ahead of. And then I get the pleasure of working with all these new fun technologies and rolling that out throughout the organization.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Anne. Sean, take it away.
So what attracted me to Ameriprise Financial? So I'll take my little story through. So first off, my parents own small businesses. So that's what I knew growing up. So my third grade teacher, I remember her asking me, what do you want to do in third grade? And I said, I want to own my own business. I don't know if I really knew that, what I meant at that time, but that's kind of what I knew. That's what we talked about around the dinner table. My dad was very involved with investing, did his own investing. Back at the time, that was pretty cutting edge. Today, it's pretty common, actually. So then fast forward, here at the University of Whitewater, my first internship was with Northwestern Mutual Life. I spent the summer there, did the college agent program, incredible program, great training. And then I left there, though, thinking it was very life and health insurance heavy at that time. I was definitely focused on investments. This is 25 years ago. So then came back my senior year here. I had an opportunity to do an internship with Merrill Lynch in Brookfield. That was very heavy the other direction, which was all investments. So actually, we were talking earlier out there. It was in my financial planning class here at Whitewater where I got introduced to Ameriprise. At the time, it was American Express Financial Advisors. So Ameriprise Financial, the name has been around for 22 years or so, 25. Been around for over 100 years as a firm. At the time, American Express Financial Advisors, now Ameriprise, was very cutting edge on financial planning. And that seemed to make a lot of sense to me, where at one firm I could do the investments, but also do the planning. That was really interesting. So fast forward, here we are today. That's what we've built our firm around, very heavy in comprehensive financial planning. As Ann mentioned, the industry, I think a lot of people are starting to move that direction. So that's really what attracted me to Ameriprise Financial. The last thing I think is what is unique is that my dream came true. I'm an owner of a business. We are affiliated, very key word. So Ameriprise Financial is a massive Fortune 500 company. We are affiliated with them. And so about 80% of the advisors with the firm own their own businesses. So we're 1099 employees. We're not W-2. And so what that means is that it's a great partnership. And at any point, if it is not a great partnership, we are open to take our business to some other investment firm. But that's really interesting is because they listen to us. We want cutting edge technology. We want cutting edge financial planning options and investments and so forth. So that's been a really good relationship. So that's what not only attracted me here, and it's pretty unique to be at the same firm for 24 years. And as long as they continue to be a great partnership, we'll stay here. But we've got options, and we're always exploring that as well.
Thanks, Sean. I'd like you to talk a little later about your partnership with Christy, if you could. And Brandon, go ahead. What attracted you?
Yeah, so I guess I have to take a step back and talk about where I came from. I started my career in 2009, and I wasn't NM, but it was close because I think that's what a lot of us did before you got into these firms that now have truly comprehensive financial planning and offer you an opportunity to come in as a college student or right out of college. But I realized that wasn't for me. I didn't like the idea of pushing product, pushing insurance, and I felt like I didn't have good investment knowledge. So it's fun to sit next to Harbour because I wound up at Russell Investments for 5 years. Now I worked in a different area of Russell, but I know Harbour very well. And my job was to go out on the West Coast. So I flew out every Monday morning on an airplane somewhere out west, and I would actually work building tax efficient portfolios. But what it did is it opened my eyes to the RIA world. So a world that was smaller, was a little bit more unique, has grown extensively over the years, is registered investment advisor. And there was a gentleman out in California, I'll never forget him. And he kind of sat me down and said, this is how you build a business in this world. This is what you focus on. And it's just that it's comprehensive wealth management. It's doing the right things. So you're invited to the weddings. And that's what made me then come to Annex. I left Russell. I had a small stop at a national RIA that is, the top 5 RIAs in the nation, and the culture wasn't right. So what drew me to Annex is, one, knowing Dave Spano, who owns Annex. I already knew him, so that helped. But then, getting to understand that there's a tax team, there's an investment team, there's a financial planning team, there's an estate planning team. And these folks would do a lot of that back end stuff. So all I had to do was focus on working with the clients. And that value proposition was, you have a team. And what I love the most about the team is if somebody doesn't like me and they come in and we just don't click, that client doesn't click with me, that's fine. They can work with anybody else at Annex. It doesn't impact my lifestyle, the firm, or anything. And I appreciate that because it doesn't happen often. I have a lot of pride, but it does happen. You just don't connect with somebody and it is not a good fit, but they still want to work with the firm. So I'll be happy to introduce them to any other our wealth managers. And that's, that was the value prop that I saw. It was truly a team. And on a side note, we talked about, I serve in the Guard. I've been in the Army National Guard as an officer now for a while. I was in Madison, I was in Kenosha, I was in Tosa during 2020. In that time frame, roughly every 3 weeks, I was gone at least a week. In Annex, because of the team we have, the clients never saw a disruption. Somebody just stepped in, one of my teammates, and took care of everything while I was gone, and I could come back and never missed a beat. So that the team approach and being an RIA and being a fiduciary and being on the forefront of comprehensive wealth management, which used to be a new thing, now I think is more thrown around. But if you find firms that truly do it, it's amazing to witness.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate that. And we'll come back to teams. We'll build on that with because a couple of you really work closely with teams as well. So that's a really great advertisement for teams. Go ahead, Travis. What attracted you there?
So I guess the approach here is to give a little bit of background. So I started at Ameriprise as well. Spent
That's right.
13 years of my career there. Started on the trading queues, moved into field office inspections, which is required audits of offices on a now infrequent basis, and then moved into a supervisory role for complex products. I would say I entered a period of self-discovery after that. I decided to go out east and be a prosecutor for a while. And let me just say, that does not pay. All right. I've got 4 kids and a wife, and that was not cool. And
Stressful too.
yes, well, that was actually quite fun, was the way I would describe that, but compensation wasn't there. So I moved actually into a defense firm. The money was there, but the demand was excessive. I had a client, I guess you could say the straw that broke the camel's back. I had a client in Dubai, and it was my son's birthday party on like a Sunday afternoon. And he's calling me, hey, you got to get on a plane. You got to get on a plane. Like, I'm sick of this, right? I want to go back to the financial investments industry, not because it's cushy, but because people respect each other for who they are. And people bring, I mean, at least those who are established in the industry, they bring some thought and some even keel to the industry instead of a knee jerk or a panic. So I started looking around, and I found Harbour Investments was looking for a new chief compliance officer, specifically somebody with experience in the financial planning and advisory aspect. They're duly registered, but they had noticed their book had clicked over into that over 50% are now advisory clients. Their chief compliance officer at the time said, I don't know this, and I don't want to know it, so I'm going to retire. And so here I am. Having that experience from Ameriprise and a wealth of connections of individuals across the industry. They had great things to say about Harbour, so I went for it. And the change in structure and the team that I work with is what makes it a good move every single day.
Fantastic, Travis. I mean, really, you went through the circle in terms of self-assessment, discovery, and it sounds like it's just a fantastic fit, lifestyle and otherwise. So that's great. Joe, talk to us. I know you
Hard to follow.
I know. That's good.
I never became a prosecutor, right? Because it doesn't pay. I will tell you that. When you grow up in Racine, Wisconsin, is anyone here from Racine, by the way? Anyone? The Johnson family, you learn in what, 4th grade, right? They own the town. They are incredibly benevolent, incredibly thoughtful family. So when somebody called me late in my career and said, you have the chance to work with this family, again, I think anyone, if anyone other than from Racine, Wisconsin heard that, they would go, my gosh, I get to work with this wealthy family. How exciting, right? How much complexity, how much, all of those things. It was in my blood. It was in my DNA. So the thought of working with that family meant something to me and has meant something to me. And I will tell you, right, because the wealthy are a mystery. And I would say, right, I would say this regardless of whether it's public or not, they are one of the most kind, thoughtful, down-to-earth families you will ever meet. So, and that gets into the second theme of why I chose this is JFG was going through a transition at the time I got there. Like a lot of financial institutions, you've heard a lot about 2008, right? Which, by the way, like it's been a formative period for a lot of people here. You guys were probably young enough that it was a formative period for you, watching what your parents went through. But it was a formative period for Johnson as well. And Johnson was on the precipice of deciding whether to pack it up and sell to a big national bank, the way M&I did, for example, or to sort of reinvest in the business and go for it, basically leading the way the Johnson family always did, which is having closely held multi-generational, sustainable, successful businesses. And they bet on the latter. And when they bet on the latter, what they did was, right, you guys probably learned this in some of your strategy courses or your management courses, in times of weakness where everyone else is panicking, go buy the talent, right? When you watch people panicking, go buy the talent. They went and bought the talent. And so they started buying talent from BMO and Associated and different RIA firms, all who were struggling and worrying about whether they were going to get through this time, right? The Great, what do we call it? The Great Depression or the Great Recession or whatever we call it back in 08. So what happened though, and again, for those of you who have taken any sort of leadership or management courses or M&A courses, combining cultures isn't easy, right? It's really, really hard. And so what they were experiencing when I got there about 10 years after they sort of put Humpty Dumpty together is it wasn't working really well. And they had a group of, and what they really had was they had probably 30 people, 30 advisors who were doing their own thing. If we had 30 advisors, we had 30 client experiences, we had 30 processes. And at the end of the day, especially when you have internal partners like bankers who say, if I hand somebody off, I've got to know what the experience is. I've got to advocate to my client, an important client to me, what the experience is going to be. You got to sort of have they have to have something they can count on, right? And so when I was brought in, it was that whole client experience role was really about defining what the client experience was going to be that we were going to deliver as an organization, that, right, our clients, our prospects, our outside partners and our internal partners could count on, that was meant to be differentiated, right? So what can we do that's differentiated from everyone else? And so what's interesting is, I said I was a lawyer for a great portion of my career, and a lawyer, right? You guys probably think about lawyers highly technical, right? I was a tax lawyer, highly technical, right? And probably in my 30s or 40s, I had an epiphany. And that's probably when it generally comes, is in your 30s and 40s, is people really don't care how much you know. People really don't care how smart you are. They only care about whether you care about them. And they only care about whether you care about them and can help them get where they want to go. So luckily I had that epiphany and I was able to bring that to our process, because we had a process that, depending on who you met with, was either focused on dependability, I'll always be there for you, or was focused on expertise, right? We're the smartest people in the room. Well, okay. So if you have expertise, and again, you guys have learned enough in your classes, expertise and dependability, those are important, but they're table stakes. No one's going to work with you because you're good and you're dependable, because they sort of expect you to be good and dependable. What they're going to work with you because, right, and Ann did a great job of laying this out, is you are benevolent. And I know benevolent's not a word that's thrown around a lot anymore, but benevolent means that your whole DNA is caring about them. Your whole DNA is helping them figure out where they want to go and how to get there. Benevolence is the secret sauce. So we started 3.5 years ago really building a process around benevolence, really building a process around, and now this stuff gets thrown around all the time, right? It's funny because I think 3.5 years ago, people weren't talking about this an awful lot, but the Carl Richards of the world now are out there talking about it all the time. And so people a lot of times talk about things like financial well-being. They talk about behavioral finance. They talk about all these things now more than they ever have. But really at the end of the day, and I think those are all fancy labels too, this stuff's really simple. It's strategy. And if you think about strategy, right, if you've ever talked about strategy in a class, strategy is about, number one, knowing where you want to go, right? Having a very clear picture of where you want to go and why, and who you are and why it's important. Having a very clear understanding, what I'll call a forensic understanding, right? Let's use an accounting and lawyer term. A very forensic understanding of where you are right now, and then figuring out all those things that you need to do to get where you want to go, right? How to bridge the gap. That's strategy. Well, that's what we do. That's what we do. But again, at the end of the day, what we need to do, the biggest piece of that, the most important piece of that, because if you look at the financial planning process is the way it might be in a textbook, that second piece being forensic about where we are, that's the important stuff. It's important. But again, it's table stakes. The differentiator, I will tell you, in financial planning, the differentiator is helping people uncover where they want to go. And helping people uncover where they want to go, not just intellectually, but emotionally. That's the differentiator. If you can do that really well, you will beat every brand. You'll beat Goldman, you'll beat JP, you'll beat Morgan Stanley. People will choose you as opposed to them if they know that you care enough to uncover where they want to go. So for 3.5 years, what we've done is we've been working on that process. I would say we are well ahead of where we were at, but also one of my mantras is we have to be as an organization, and I have to be as a human being better 30 days from now than I am today, which frustrates the crap out of people, by the way. Consistent growth is something that irritates people. They go, aren't we good enough now? Think about people who like to make checklists. Eventually, they want the whole checklist checked. We never have the whole checklist checked. So again, I will tell you, though, that's one of the secrets of fulfillment, professional fulfillment, is never be satisfied. Always be thinking about 30 days from now how you want to be materially different than you are today, materially better than you are today.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. And so thank you for sharing, what attracted you, what kept you there. You all in one way, shape, or form talked about teams, okay? And one of the things that everyone's trying to figure out here is what are the roles that are available in your organization? What does that look like? And some people may want to be face-to-face with clients. Some people might say, gee, I'm not ready for that, but I'd be interested in doing that down the road. Or what other roles exist? So Travis, if I could start with you on this, and then we'll go to Brandon, go to Sean, Ann, and come back to Joe. Travis, talk about teams in your organization or opportunities in your organization.
All right. Well, obviously, I'm going to let financial planning stay to the experts here.
Okay.
Because they're going to cover it in detail. I know it. So from my standpoint, being at the firm level, right, being both a broker-dealer and investment advisor, the roles that are out there are limitless, right? Everything that is needed to support all of them up here and their teams be successful typically is done at the corporate office. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about marketing. I'm talking about legal. They want to get paid. Finance is there, right? We have accounting. Supervision of everything that's done and approval of everything that's done. That's handled in the home office. Customer service, should they be on vacation or out, the client can't get a hold of them, they got a trade. We got to have somebody who can place that trade. So all of those roles are there. And then within that, there's also product development, product research. We're going to bring on new clearing firms, etc. All of that requires a team. All of that is a role that somebody needs to fill. So there's
plenty of opportunities.
Yeah,
opportunities galore.
Throw a dart at the wall. It's there. If you want to do it, you can do it.
Do you have to be a finance major?
No.
Sean, let's go to you next.
Yeah, thank you. So probably a little bit different, unique is that within our firm, we have a team of 20. There's probably 4 major roles there. So entry-level roles there that you might want to start in on, like you mentioned, Mark, client-facing, and then what we'll kind of call back office. So client service manager role would be someone that's not licensed, that could be licensed over time, and really kind of helping coordinate, facilitate really the entire client experience. Kind of a director of first impressions as well. Then we'll have a financial planning analyst. So that's where some of our recent grads have entered our team, where they're working intensely with the financial planning software. What we really strive is to make sure and get as many of those individuals client-facing as possible. So as we're doing a client meeting, we're going to have a financial planning analyst. We're going to have a lead advisor in the role as well. The next natural step there is what we refer to as associate financial advisor. Every firm's going to have a different terminology. What does it mean to you? That's going to be the next natural step into getting licensed and starting to move down that, where you're actually starting to help support the financial advisor in execution of some of that advice and planning. And then that fourth role would be what we'll call the lead advisor, and then all different levels of that over time and depending on the CFP and so forth. So I think what I want to add on to as well is what I think Travis mentioned earlier. Thanks for the advertisement for Ameriprise corporate office. First and foremost, I want to share too, and like everyone here, I'm here to give back. Went here. This is exactly how I had the opportunity. I think some of the success is to meet individuals, to network. So congratulations to everyone here, by the way, for showing up. That's what I want to mention too. So the head of Ameriprise Financial internal advisors, we're based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, is actually a UW-Whitewater grad who is my RA, resident assistant, sophomore year. And so I get to see him at national conferences.
What dorm?
Wells West. Yep. Just incredible small world. So networking, again, everything that you're doing right now is great. So then that's the big corporate side of it. And kind of like Travis, that's where he spent his time as too. So there's just so many different avenues. So once again, avenues if you want to work with a comprehensive financial planning team where you're working directly with clients, or there's so many opportunities at like a corporate office, which is based out of Minneapolis.
Hey, Sean, again, just asking because we have some undecided majors here. Okay, we have freshmen, sophomores. We have some people that are in different majors other than finance. So again, do you have to be a finance major or accounting major? It could help, but for roles in your organization, does it always have to be finance and accounting majors?
Yeah, I believe 50% of our team of 20 are not finance majors. The client service managers are definitely not finance majors. Their communication is really, really important with them. But one of our partners, so we hired an individual 14 years ago from Whitewater. He was a business law student and thought he was going down that path. And we hired him about 18 months out of Whitewater, and he became a partner 2 years ago with our firm. So just an incredibly proud moment for us, kind of taking that next generation into the firm. So an actual financial advisor, an incredible financial advisor. Love everything I'm hearing up here. It's about not how much you know, but how much you care. So yeah,
Thanks,
hopefully
Sean.
that answers that.
Thanks. Brandon, you talked about it. You touched on it. You got called away on duty and you had a team just kind of fill in and help out. Talk a little bit about opportunities and roles in your firm.
Yeah, so it's slightly different than Harbour or Ameriprise in the fact that we are a smaller firm. We have about 125 employees currently, but we do have those individual teams, right? So talking to a student earlier, said, well, maybe I don't want to be client facing. Well, we have a financial planning team where those folks don't have that necessarily comfort level where they want to sit in front of a client every day and field those client calls, but they are incredibly bright and they spend all their time researching and they spend all their time putting ideas together and creating flowcharts, and they build the plans for the clients. They field the incredibly complex questions that we can throw at them. That is one role. The client service manager is a huge, probably in my opinion, besides maybe the wealth manager, and I would argue that it's a tie. The client service manager is the most important person in the firm because they are the liaison to their money, the operations. They are always talking to the clients. I talk to the clients a reasonable amount. My partner is Angela. Angela talks to the clients constantly, and she knows more about them than I do. She gets gift cards and letters and invites and thank you cards. Her whole desk is just that. A client service manager, and that can be a career, a lifetime career. You can take it to different levels. You can assume different responsibility. But because we are a smaller firm, we have our own marketing team. We have 4 radio shows. You guys have seen our billboards, especially if you're in the Milwaukee area. We have them on the way out here. I mean, we have stuff everywhere. Our marketing team is so strong, phenomenal individuals that you could take that out and have your own marketing firm if you lifted it out of Annex. Obviously, on the investment side, we do all our investing in-house. So I was listening to the panel earlier. We just hired a graduate. Nick was graduated, right? Yeah. No, so we hired an individual from...
He was in our class. He was in 402.
Okay.
Yep.
We got a lot of employees. I'm sorry. So I don't see them all. But he works on our investment team. We have a PhD on our investment team. We have multiple CFAs. We have an estate planning team of 3 JDs that do a fantastic job. And then you look, financial planning. So there's all these areas. And when I started just 3 years ago at Annex, I was the 75th or 72nd employee hired. We're at over 125 now. There are roles that don't exist today that'll exist next year. So coming in with a skill set and a talent, we'll create a role. We're small enough to say, you're an exceptional human being and you have this great skill set. Let's find a way to make it work for you, and we'll build a path. And to that, I don't have a finance degree. A lot of folks don't. I mean, you can do with us, you can really do anything within the realm of finance. And sorry, we also have data. Our data team is incredible. I don't know how to describe them. They do Excel things I've never seen. But those are just some of the different areas you can come in and do what we do.
Thank you for that, Brandon. Appreciate it. And Ann, what about, I know you're new, but what about some of the roles in Savant as you're getting your arms around your new role?
Yeah. And actually, I'm really good at this because I've been meeting everyone in the organization right now because I'm so new. So I know what all the roles are. But just in finance in general, I like to think of it as like we're all familiar with going to the doctor. You have your doctor, you have your physician's assistant, you might have your nurse practitioner, you have your nurse, you have the person that schedules. It's very similar in the world of finance. And so when you're thinking about what role you want to go in, you can go all the way up to being a doctor, or you can stop at one of those levels as well. So at Savant, we have obviously our advising team. We have our financial planning team. We have a wealth transfer team. So that is more on the legal side where you work with trusts and, how do we structure generational wealth? And then we have our tax team. And so each team has their people in there. One of the cool things is we do have an internship program, and you can bounce around during the different departments if you want to, if you're not quite sure what you want to do. But in the financial planning or in the advisor teams, the way we have it set up is we have kind of those customer service people who do talk to the clients, like clients love them. That's who they call first because they don't want to talk to us, the advisor. So you have that person, first line of defense, make sure that the client is always happy. And then in our structure, we have what's called an associate. This associate is kind of the advisor in training. And we leverage them quite a bit in financial planning. So that would be the person who would be trained on all of our technology. They would be able to put reports together. They kind of put together the first scenario, the first strategies, and then present it to the advisors. And then the advisor will present it. And then after you have this associate, we have 3 levels of advisors. So it just depends on your level of experience. And then as you kind of go up, you take more and more control. You have a bigger book of business. And then at some point, you're kind of controlling the shots. The one thing we also do is, you had mentioned the CFP and how that's a program. All of our advisors have to be CFPs. And I think that's the difference between going to kind of a broker dealer. I started off at Edward Jones, and that was not a focus for them. But if you're in an RIA, most of the time they will want you to be a CFP, partially because of the ethics. You want to make sure that you are putting the best person in front of your clients. But then also because you'll learn about property and casualty, life insurance, health insurance, trust setups. I mean, you will have a holistic look. So as you're sitting there in front of your clients, you'll know what to do. But that's why we kind of structure it that way. So you have as an associate, you come in and we're mentoring you, we're training you. And that's how I think a lot of the organizations are set up, so that you don't feel like you're just kind of fish out of water. You have somebody guiding and coaching you so that you can give the best service possible.
Thank you for that, Ann. Joe, anything to add, or is it similar or different?
It's incredibly different.
Okay.
So as I'm thinking about, I will say everyone here that has told you how they structure their business, I will tell you that's the right structure, right? Come in, have a specific role that immerses you in what we do, have people who have different skill sets that do different things, that are gifted at it, that love it, right? And then build a team where the client experiences the whole team and everyone's doing what they're gifted at, what they're passionate about, and what differentiates them. That's not the culture I walked into. The culture I walked into was very much a bank wealth culture. And a bank wealth culture is you generally have somebody that's called the relationship manager that is a do everything for every person kind of person. It's not team-based. It's very isolated. It's very siloed. And so I knew this was the right structure. And yet, right, like when you come into any organization, if you know where you need to go and you have a role of influence to get you there, here's what I would tell you, right? So if you are being brought in to be a change agent, right, to grow where you're going to go, here's a little piece of advice: be convicted and don't be stubborn. Okay. Now you're going to go, those are synonyms, right? How in the world do I do that? And the answer to how you do that is you have to always know, you have to always believe in ultimately where you want to go and how to get there, but you can't be so stubborn as to believe that the way you think you got to get there is the right way. You got to listen, you got to be thoughtful, you got to grow, you got to problem solve. So I knew this was the right way to go. And yet to get there would have created too much cultural chaos. So what I did, the one team that I was absolutely in charge of is what we call the PCS team, what almost everyone else in the world calls the ultra high net worth team, right? I was the lawyer, right? So I was able to have that team sort of reported to me. And so I started to test the courage of my own convictions. So if I believe that a great team can have somebody who's at a junior level, we're going to immerse in it and learn it. And by the way, we're learning big stuff, right? We're working with ultra high net worth clients. We took a graduate from here. She's in her 3rd year. She's on my team. Okay. So she's a member of my team, where other people were saying you can never put somebody at this level in front of an ultra high net worth client. We put her in front of ultra high net worth clients every day. We took somebody else who was incredibly talented, who was languishing as an assistant, right? Was totally a backroom person, but I could tell was great with client communication, was great on process, was great in connecting with clients. She became sort of our client service specialist on the ultra high net worth team, which is a critically important thing, because what ultra high net worth people want, what they tend to want is take their complexity, make it simplicity. And that requires a lot of backroom stuff. That requires a lot of conversations. It requires a lot of conversations with a lot of generations of people. We took her. She's a phenomenal part of our team. We took somebody else who was sort of always a backroom planner, but when you spent time with him, you could tell that in front of clients, he would have an impact if he just had the courage of his convictions to just ask questions and not try to ask questions and not provide answers, right? Do it in the right order. Ask the question first, then provide the answer. So we tried him on this team and it's worked. And what's interesting is now we can evolve the culture because we've proven that it works with the most critically, right? The clients that everyone wants to get, the clients that everyone fights for, we've proved that this structure works with them. Now we can show that it works for everyone. So again, I'm envious because I would love to come into a culture that either had it down or I'd love to come into a culture where you were building it. That's what I was not able to do. I was at a culture where we had to reform it. And again, conviction, but don't be stubborn.
So work in progress, but progress is what I hear, Joe.
Work in progress, but progress will be better 30 days from now.
Okay. Just 2 more questions, okay? And I'm not going to ask all of you to respond. So if you feel it's been answered, feel free to answer it. But the last question is going to be about UW-Whitewater students. I'm not going to ask that yet, but do you have any in your organization? And what's the impression of UW-Whitewater students? So our people here know that. But this question I'd like to ask before we get there, we've had some market turbulence, right? And you all talked about, from a compliance standpoint, Travis, right? It can be client complaints, right? There can be a whole host of different things. And having that deep connection with clients and that deep relationship with clients about where they are, where they want to go, how have you helped them through? Sean, I'm going to start with you. How have you helped your clients through this time? And if you don't want to answer, you're ready. You're ready. Go for it.
Market turbulence. What are you talking about? So I've been doing it long enough, like everyone up here. We've been through a lot. I said that a few years ago, and then we went through a global pandemic together. So that is a benefit. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned yet, but when I started, I did have hair. So that kind of tells you there's some stressful moments as we navigate the markets. But the fundamental, I can't imagine being an advisor and focusing on asset management only, because there is only one thing to talk about in that meeting, and that is the performance of the investments. Thankfully, I chose to start out with Ameriprise, and we do the financial planning process, and we focus on the cash flow and the essentials and the lifestyle needs that our clients want, and then build the portfolio to produce the income And those are the conversations that we're having. And I know everyone up here is saying the same exact things. So it's a little bit easier, but it's still challenging. These people, they're scared, right? And I'm going to put them into two separate buckets. One that are a couple years from retirement and ones that are in retirement. Because the ones that are 10 plus years out, that's a pretty easy conversation. We can talk about just don't make a mistake, keep investing. Don't make a mistake by selling something at this low point. We have a long time horizon ahead of us. The biggest thing for them is make sure your job is secure because layoffs are coming, right? It's going to be a different world in the next 6, 12, 18 months than it's been in the last 18 months. So that's that conversation. And then the ones that are a few years before, making sure that we're still tracking towards the goal. And we're all looking in the horizon trying to figure out what the next 10 years looks like. Most people believe the next 10 years are not going to look like the last 10 years in regards to performance. But it comes back to building an income portfolio for those that are in retirement and just focusing on their goals, knowing that you care and being ready to make some adjustments if necessary. But we're also very fortunate to work with a lot of clients that are in really good financial positions, but they still get scared. They still get nervous. And so come back to the fundamental plan and all of that, it's unbelievably rewarding. And everyone up here can attest to that of having someone come in and just say, every time after we get done talking, you bring me back to my goals. You tell me to stop listening to all the noise and what's important to me, because there's a lot of noise and there's more noise today than there was 25 years ago. And what I'm talking about is in your face, the 6 o'clock news and the amazing music that comes on that just makes your hair stand up on your arms. That doesn't help our clients reach their goals. So,
thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. Travis, from your perspective, kind of overseeing the compliance aspect of the organization, what are some of the things you and your team are doing and the representatives doing to help clients in this market?
Well, I have to agree with everything Sean has said here so far. And I'll add on top of that maybe a little background. So I like to call 2008 the great fiasco. You can call it Great Recession or whatever. But while I was in Ameriprise, one of the things we pulled out of it was some statistics, and the advisors, and of course, everybody hates the word complaint in our industry, right? You don't want to get a complaint because then it goes on your record, yada, yada, yada. But anyways, the statistics showed that the reps who picked up the phone and had that conversation with their clients in the down markets were able to avoid complaints, whereas the other ones who were afraid of it didn't, right? So you have to overcome your fear in this moment. And that is, as far as communication, that's how we're positioning it as well. This is not the time to hide from your clients. I know portfolios might be down, but this is the time to talk to them and connect with them on that personal level and revisit the financial plan, revisit their strategy, show them all the charts you want to show them, but you got to connect with them individually and you got to be able to speak to them. You could be the greatest at putting together a portfolio, but if you can't connect with them on a level and help them understand where this fits in the plan, you're going to have a problem there.
Very wise, Travis. Very wise. Any other thoughts on that? Otherwise, I'm going to go to the last question.
I do have one real quick. I said this 3 years ago when I was on the panel. I'll say it again because I believe it even more now in the 3 years. Take all the psychology you can take, right? So for what you want to take outside of here, take psychology, take behavioral, take neuro, take all the psychology, because at the end of the day, this is a human sport, right? If you want to do this is about understanding how humans behave. This is how understanding how brains work. What's happening, right? What we're all experiencing right now is this thing called loss aversion, which is a fancy way of saying that people experience the pain of loss twice as acutely as they experience the happiness of a similar gain. Which means we're running scared financially, right? That means we as human beings are wired. We're wired to run scared financially. So that's what we're dealing with, is a bunch of people who are running scared financially. So how do you deal with that, right? How is everyone up here with such calmness? First of all, you compartmentalize, but that's probably not emotionally healthy. So forget that I said that. Number two is you help understanding the way the human behavior works. Again, that's why the psychology is important. But number three, and I think Sean put this subtly, so I want to put it more distinctly. Make sure the clients understand what the loss is, because what they're going to see is loss in a portfolio, right? Well, that loss in the portfolio only matters at one time. It's when they sell those shares. It's the only time it matters, right? Value of a portfolio only matters 2 times, when you buy and when you sell. It's the only time it matters, right? Other than that, it's opportunity cost or opportunity, right? So help clients understand what the real loss is. And the real loss is the loss in goals that you've been talking about for the last 10 years. If we do this, right? If we give into the fear that our brain is shouting at us to give into, because we're herd creatures, right? When we watch, right? So when we watch that ticker go down, we're herd creatures. We want to sell. When we watch that ticker go up, we're herd creatures. We want to buy. So at the end of the day, we know, we're smart enough to know, because you learned really well here, that's not the way you make money. You do the opposite, right? You buy when it's low, you sell when it's high. So at the end of the day, what you got to do is you got to equate the value of those assets with the actual things that human beings want. Whether that's experiences, whether that's freedom, whether that's independence, whether that's social impact, you got to go back to the plan and say, we can do this, but the plan assumes we're not going to do it. The plan assumes we're going to act intelligently. So if we act stupidly, and I wouldn't use the term stupidly, but if we do what the plan says we're not going to do, then actually all these goals that we put together, you've just lost all of them. If on the other hand, we do what the plan tells us to do, all those goals are safe. We might have to delay some things, right? We might have to wait out some markets. We might not be able to take the trip to Paris next year, but we can probably take it in 2025. Does it really matter all that much? You know, you got to have those conversations with human beings, right? There are choices to be made. But let's make them timing choices. Let's not make them binary choices.
Thanks, Joe. And appreciate your perspective. And I know you could all speak to this because you're dealing with it firsthand. UW-Whitewater students, and you may not know this, Ann, okay? I know, okay? I know your firm has hired
We
them.
have some.
I know they hired them. I know they love them, okay? But you know, we have people here that are freshmen and sophomores. We have some people that are here that have been juniors and seniors, and they're ready to move on. Sean, I know you have a number of UW-Whitewater students. Just talk about, yes, we have them, however many you think you have, and you may not know. If you don't know, that's okay. But what's the reputation of Whitewater? That's the other aspect of it. So how many of you do you have, and what's the reputation of Whitewater?
Yeah, share a couple of quick thoughts. Reputation is fantastic. You have a chip on your shoulder relative to your neighbors at UW-Madison, which I love. And so who we have in our firm, I mentioned Travis Heiser, who I met after graduation. And then we hired Matt Miller. So I met Matt Miller in 1999, right after this session, out there in that lobby right there. And Matt was playing baseball for UW-Whitewater and then was thinking finance was his goal. And so he started as an intern with us in January of 2020. And we all know what happened a couple months later. That was a very unique opportunity to try to have his first full-time opportunity in the business. Eyes wide open, what an incredible experience. So then Matt worked with us for an internship through over a year, and then upon graduation, then joined our firm full-time. So those are kind of the success stories that we like. Just as important, they used to have an alumni mentorship program here at Whitewater that I did for a few different years. That was just as important. So there was 6 students over a period of 3 years, 1 a semester, where we just got an opportunity to show them the business. It wasn't a full internship. But as I mentioned earlier, it's just as important to have an internship opportunity that you don't go on to full-time employment. So I'd say no pressure on any of these internships as well. I'm a sitting case of that. I think that was incredibly important that I could have spent 5 years at Northwestern Mutual Life, another 5 years at Merrill Lynch, but I actually got it figured out that wasn't the path I wanted to go down to before I even graduated. So sorry, I just want to share those couple things.
Thank you, Sean. Brandon, do you know?
I couldn't HR's here because I'm here, so they're here too. But she held up a sign. I think it's at 6 or 13.
Okay, it's quite a few, right?
Yeah, it's quite a few. So we've hired quite a few. From a reputational standpoint, I mean, I came from an extremely small school. I'd never had a auditorium this big where I went to college. You guys have a great reputation. Somebody said it earlier in a different panel. They don't even look at resumes, or they don't even look at colleges on resumes. I definitely don't. I mean, I look to see, did you graduate? Not worried about GPA, care about people. because it's a people business. You're working with people. So can we connect when we interview? Can we have a great discussion? Can you sense that there's passion? That's what truly matters. So, we have quite a few UW Whitewater graduates that work for us. We do have interns. We don't advertise that. We do interns. For Annex, it's all word of mouth. It always has been. I think we had 3 or 4 last year. So, that's really how it works for us. And I got to throw in one plug because I am in the Army Guard, and I need more engineer officers. So, if you guys are looking at ROTC, I really need another engineer
dual
officer.
purpose, right? All right. Travis?
Amongst our executive leadership team, I think we have 2 or 3 Whitewater grads. But I'll go right along here with what Brandon has said. Harbour is focused on hiring qualified individuals. So as far as the reputation, we're all in this together. We're all respected amongst the firm and the organization. And we all bring from different prestigious schools, different traits, and we all complement each other.
Thanks, Travis. Joe?
So I walked into definitely not a draft and develop strategy. We didn't bring in any college, at least in the wealth area, we didn't bring in any college graduates. I was the first one to bring one in. I told you what happened with her, right? We threw her doggone well in the deep end, and she doesn't just swim, she swims Olympic style. So that's incredibly impressive. We are definitely, she has caused us to look at this school, I don't want to say in a different way, but just in a positive way, right? Because again, not a whole lot of college recruiting before. She's been a great ambassador for the school, and certainly one that we're excited to grow the relationship around.
Well, everyone, I know you've been patient, and I really appreciate all of you being here today and supporting this panel. And let's give our panelists a round of applause. And thank you for your insights. They're going to be available out there. And, one of the things I wanted to touch on is they are looking for multiple, there's multiple different opportunities in these firms. And so mix and mingle, take advantage of the time, find out what's out there, and build some relationships. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time and perspective. Have a great one.